In March, when the pandemic changed our life, we launched online project Contemporary Area Studies. At first guest was you, Dr. Rizk, and you shared with us many important things, both about life in Lebanon and the political and economic situation in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region. Today, we are pleased to receive your expert opinion on the current events and wish everyone a productive and pleasant lecture. Thank you very much for joining us today, and you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Vishnyakova. And for our guest, I want to remind that today with us will be a known Lebanese political scientist, public figure, director of the Institute for Strategic and Communication Studies in Lebanon, Isticharia, Dr. Imad Rizk. The topic of our discussion will be the future of Lebanon and new balance of power in East Mediterranean. So Dr. Imad Rizk's presentation will focus on some current developments in the Eastern Mediterranean, where it's confrontation between Turkey and major regional countries, etc. So, Dr. Imad, one more time, thank you to be with us, and now the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you, Murad, my friend, my brother, and thank you for the professor, also for the faculty, for the university, and for this opportunity to be together, to share our opinion, to discuss idea, and of course, this discussion maybe it's a point of view or related to our analysts in the center, focusing on what's happening last few months in the region, related to Lebanon, but also related to all the region. For all the analysts and the experts in Middle East especially, and when we talk about Middle East, we talk about last 10 years. If you look to this map, you see that Middle East and North Africa, most of the instability in the world, most of some terrorists or the most of the terrorist attack or instability related to the regimes in the region, democracy related to the promotion of the US policy in the region, and also related to the conflict in the Mediterranean between Europe and France, French policy related to the Mediterranean basin from one side, from the other side related also to the Centralcom, American Centralcom, which we can see that more than 65 years, the American are trying to be and to have more based on this sea, because if we can talk about the monopoly, they want to monitor, they want to continue to be in the #1 in the worldwide military, politically and economically through this region, because through this region you can control 5C. You can control the Black Sea, Aegean, Mediterranean, Red Sea, and also the Gulf region. So from this background, I want to start to talk about the future, especially of Lebanon, as we are living in Lebanon, as our center is in Lebanon. But also I put 5 points to start if I can say, my lecture or my brainstorming especially. The first one, we want to think about the potential scenarios of the ongoing crisis. This crisis or the complicated crisis, what will be in the future in the region? So we are going for a peace, we are going for more complication, we are going for a war. So let's start with this 5 points. The first one is the implication of the US-Iranian escalation on regional security. So what will be the future of this relation between Iranian and American? Because Lebanon especially, he is the most influenced by Iranian now, related to the new positioning of Hezbollah after the war in Syria, after what's happening in Yemen, in Iraq, and of course related to the competition made it between Iran and the US in Lebanon and in the region. So what will be the future of this relation and the implication in all the region and in Lebanon especially. The second one, what will be the European efforts to mediate this conflict in the Middle East, and especially in East Mediterranean, related to what happened with the new geopolitics related to the gas and oil in the East Mediterranean, related to the new positioning of Egypt toward Greece, and of course Cyprus, the two members in EU, and related to the conflict and the tension between Egypt and Turkey. The third point about Iran deal, and with the new imposed American. So what will be the deal if after the election in the US, Trump will be the president? What we expect? We expect a deal. And after this deal, what be the implication in the region? So we have to talk about the points related to this deal, what the Iranian will get, if it will be the deal, and if not, if Biden will be the president in the US, what will be the future of the relation between the US and Iranian? It will be a deal and a new settlement, or no, we are going for to continue this confrontation or escalation of this crisis. Number four is how does the past still influence Middle East dynamics? So everybody knows that the influence of the Ottoman Empire in this region, especially in Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, and of course in Egypt, and the history of this relation between, if I can say, about the unconscious inside the life of the people who are living in this region, and the new Erdogan policy toward the region. So with the new Turkish foreign policy, maybe all the region now start to remember what happened during the period of the Ottoman, and of course talking about the settlement made after the First World War. So this implication, the influence of this history is still related to what related with this new policy Turkish toward the region, relation with Israel, relation with the Arab country, and the new conflict, if I can say new conflict, but influence between Saudi Arabia, Emirate, and the new role of Turkey in the region. So number five, how do mercenaries affect conflict in the Middle East? So we have to talk about also about the future of terrorism, the future of the radicalism in the region. So this region was the most affected. I'm talking about Middle East, all Middle East, but especially if we have to talk about the East Mediterranean basin from Egypt till Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and or maybe some of a part of Turkey. We still have a lot, thousands of this radical idea, thousands of jihadists. They believe in some radical idea, or they are still working for this idea. So what will be the future of these people? What will be the future of the terrorism in this region, that they will affect directly the new settlement related to the gas, to the new rapprochement between Israel and Egypt and Europe, and between also the new conflict between Egypt and Turkey related to the Muslim Brotherhood, or related to some other ideology or political or economic settlement. So we have to look to these 5 points, and from this 5 start point, I just look to, let's say, to the region and, of course, to the future of Lebanon. Related to the future of Lebanon, we have also some impact still. So we can talk about Lebanon, and I have to talk about 2030. Yani, I have to talk about 10 years. After 10 years, what will be the future of Lebanon, how we can see Lebanon and the region surrounding Lebanon. Political level, we have the economically level, we have the security related to the extremism, and we have the strategically geopolitics affect Lebanon or in the same time all the region. So we have to talk to arrive to the future of Lebanon between the next 5 years. At least we have to talk about the future of Syria. What will be the future of the Caesar Act related to a relation between Syria and the US, sanctions on Syrian, on Iranian, on Lebanese, and some other businessmen, political life, and some other institution or company. What will be the future of Syria related to Geneva, the peace process in Syria between the opposition and the government, the new settlement in Syria. So what will be the future of Syria the next 5 years? Directly, it will impact, we can see the impact on maybe at least 3 level, politically and economically and security level on Lebanon. So what will be the future of Iran in the region? So Iran will continue to be the next 5 years or plus 10 years in Syria or in Iraq. The settlement will be with the US, Iranian, or this deal can be an American deal to give some opportunity for the Iranian to influence the Iraqi government or the Iraqi economy or Iraqi life. So what will be the implication on Syrian and Lebanon? What will be the implication on Hezbollah as a political party or as a resistant who have a missile that can influence or they can target Israel? So the third level, we have to talk about the East Mediterranean Agreement related to the consortium related to the gas headed by Egypt. So this consortium will continue. It will be extended because when they make the first roundtable or a conference, symposium, they agree to extend the membership of this organization. So Lebanon will be member or will continue to be like Turkey and Syria away from this membership. So if Lebanon will be member in this organization. So what will be the future of the relation or the agreement related to the peace process with Israel? And what will be the impact on Palestinian issues related to a role for Hamas or as we see today, an agreement between Hamas and Fatah in Turkey under Erdogan, if I can say, hosted. So it's a message for Israel to say we can be inside the consortium through the Palestinian, and we can make you trouble. So through this time, I'm talking about the next 5 years at least. So what will be the shape of this relation? Number 4, what will be the role of Russia? Russia will continue to be or to have influence in Syria. What will be the role of Russia and the US in Syria? The American will continue to be in Syria and in the region, or they, after a deal with the Iranian, they leave Syria or Iraq, or what will be the new positioning? China, what will be the role of China? China will participate in the construction of the region, because we have to talk about a Marshall Project. Now, if we look with the consortium made as Israel membership for gas and the East Mediterranean basin, we have to look also to the agreement or the peace agreement start between Israel and Emirates, Israel and Bahrain, Israel and Oman, and what will be the future Israel and Saudi Arabia. So if the project will continue, they was talking about a new tracks for regional peace. So if we look to this project related to train, related to transportation, we talk about future of Haifa port. With this new relation, economically relation and strategically relation, we can join Mediterranean basin with the Gulf region through Emirates. We can join also through Sultanate Oman, the Pacific. So what will be the future of this project also? It will be related with the gas transportation from Mediterranean to the other side. I'm talking other side to India, and maybe to the region, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, a new place for economy in the world to make a competition with China. So it will be a role of American, Israel, and all this state in Mediterranean basin to participate against or in parallel with the Silk Road project in the region. So what will be the future of Lebanese port, as after the explosion in Beirut port and the destruction of maybe 65% of Beirut. Maybe now we are going for a reconstruction, but we have to talk about some big damage. What will be the role of Europe? Relation between Beirut and Europe, French especially. So as now everybody knows that there is like a mediation led by Macron. So after election in Paris, Macron will continue, or it will be a new policy. So the future of this region, especially of Lebanon, we cannot say that we can expect with all this unexpected or unstable situation. So at least 5 years we continue with this instability. We cannot talk about peace process or a good end for this peace process. We have to look about of this ongoing crisis. Finally, with the role of Turkey, with this escalation of the currency, Turkish currency and Iranian currency, and of course, the influence of Israel related to this two not Arab state in the region. So we are talking about a triangle of instability between Israel, Turkey, and Iran, that they can influence the Gulf region, they can influence Mediterranean basin, and also everything will be open till from crisis to conflict, maybe also for military conflict or military confrontation. So what will be the policy of Erdogan? He will continue to promote the project of the influence of Turkish as Ottoman in the Mediterranean and Black Sea. What will be the implication related to Iranian, related to the coalition between Turkey and Israel, or if it will be a deal between Iran and the US, this deal can implicate the peace process for Iran to have a new role in the region. And this new role, it will be a competition with Israel and the other Arab country. So we are talking about unstable 10 years in the region. And of course, Lebanon will live these 10 years. And I think that as we can see now, we have a deep political crisis in Lebanon. It's not related with the government, it's related with the political life in Lebanon. and maybe with a bad resolution, or we can expect a lot of instability related with security. Economically, you can see, and everyone can see that also the influence of the dollar, the influence of the inside the economy, and maybe also the future of life of Lebanese. So Lebanon will be as a place for tourism, as a hub, economic hub, as for banking system and the region. And related to the security, Lebanon will continue to be as a place, not as jihadist place. What happened last 10 years, we see Lebanon as a passage or as a hub of communication for the jihadists or for the extremist terrorism activities in the region, not as a place for targeting. It was just targeting Hezbollah as a competition between the Sunni and Shia related to Syria and to some other political issues. But we cannot see that Lebanon until now was a place for the jihad, for this extremist organization. First, in geopolitics, what we can expect for the future of Lebanon, as an information, not as an analyst, I can say that Lebanon, because he is neighbor with Israel, and because of the investment of the US through 65 years in Lebanon, I think that the US will not keep Lebanon to be as a failed state. It was just to make a pressure on political parties and to make some unstable situation and to put all these political parties in Lebanon in crisis just to get so. And this peace with Israel, it will be with a bad influence in stability between a lot. We can talk about half of Lebanese. They believe in supporting resistance, and half of Lebanese maybe they want to finish from this embargo, the sanctions, and this unstable social economically situation. So for the Lebanon will be a failed state, sure. Lebanon will continue to be as a new model or as a model of a hub of peace or hub of communication in the region. This role keep Lebanon, and before years keep Lebanon away from the competition regionally and international competition in the region. And I think if we return to keep Lebanon as a hub for communication and for positive things, I think that Lebanon can have this role, or Lebanese have the opportunity and have the capacity related to their culture, to their extended in the world, and the 5 continents. And we can say that Lebanon, I cannot look to Lebanon as a negative or as a failed state in the region, but just some problem, some crisis. We cannot expect conflict, big conflict, not a war also, because as an information, I think that preparation for negotiation between Lebanon and Israel, we are so close to start from this point related to the future of the investment in the East Mediterranean basin. So related to the investment, related to the business, economic, and needed from both sides, Lebanon and Israel and other party in the next 6 months in a problem. After 2 years, we will continue to have some economic problem, but I'm sure that after it, it will be some new settlement to keep Lebanon away from the competition. Competition will continue after 5 or 10 years. And I think that I was clear. And I want to thank you. If you have any question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Imad. It's really a great pleasure because it's really interesting. And what about the point about Israel and other relations? It's really so interesting because we understand now in region, if some Arabian countries want to attract investment, want stability, they need to make a deal maybe about normalization with Israel and about maybe 2 weeks ago in Russia, we have a type of discussion, but it was closed door discussion, and we discussed the situation that maybe in future Lebanon will go to normalization with Israel because it means that in this case they will be stable more and it will attract the attention of investors. So, dear colleagues, now we can move to discussion. First question will be the question of the head of the School of International Regional Studies, Professor Vishnyakova. Unfortunately, she has some problem with connection and write me using WhatsApp that, in your opinion, how the last event, I mean explosion in Beirut port, affected on transformation of the balance of power in the Eastern Mediterranean? If it, of course, did something with this situation.
Look, to be honest, yes, of course, this explosion was big, and he affect a lot the economy in Lebanon. But also, we have to know that from 17th of October, we have demonstration, we have a big opposition, and it was two government. Yani, from arrive to this explosion, we see that the economic life in Lebanon stopped. The implication of Corona and, of course, the complication related to be honest, as I know, it's not analyst, it's also related to the peace process in the region. So when the negotiations start between Lebanon through the American to finalize the border, the sea border with Israel, and with this complication, you see that a lot of problems start in Lebanon. And of course, when we talk about Lebanon government and investment in gas, Lebanon future as a state part of the gas consortium in the world, as everybody knows, what we have in the East Mediterranean basin, especially in the bloc of Lebanon. So, and the competition between Lebanon and the other country in the region, and also if we have to talk about Israel as an enemy officially for Lebanon, so a part of Lebanese was preparing to benefit from this investment in gas and to continue for this competition militarily and of course in other way against Israel. So I think that Israel and American have some influence with the crisis in Lebanon, in the banking system, currency, economic sanction against Hezbollah, against other political figure. And of course, it's a kind of the fifth generation warfare. So American know how to use the new technique of war to put, let's say, not the enemy, but the one who want to make a competition with their policy, to put them in a way to say yes. So if we look to the American way, American promote if you are with us or you are not with us. So you cannot be in the middle. They cannot believe that you can be as a mediator or as a hub for communication. This is why, because we are at the border with Israel, or Israel also benefits from, let's say, from Lebanese water, and they have some influence on some in the political life in Lebanon. We have to be honest. And the American also they have. So at the end, we see this competition in Lebanese political life, and the implication of this explosion was used in the political crisis. So we have economic problem, we have currency problem, banking system problem, but in reality, the system is still alive. The government still, we cannot say that we are a failed state or the government is weak. No, if we look 1 year, there is no one pay for the government, but the government still paying for all the administrative and for all salary. So also the private sector is still alive. This is why I was optimist to say it's just political issues. It's not economic failed with the policy of the governor of the national bank or other policy in the government or in the state. This is why with this explosion, I cannot see Lebanon out of the new settlement. Maybe now he's not in, but before few years we have made a lot of development relation between Lebanon and Egypt related to this symposium of gas in the East Mediterranean basin. We lead also a lot of discussion with Greece and Cyprus, and we have Lebanese that can influence the political life in Greece or in Cyprus. So, and in the same time, the problem was Israel. It's not Lebanon to be a member of this or to participate in this symposium, only Israel. So because of the crisis, because of the conflict with Israel, because of the crisis related to the new competition between Turkey and Egypt and the new settlement in the political life in Lebanon related to this conflict, Turkish, Egypt, I'm talking about influence on the Sunnah community in Lebanon, and the competition between the Sunnah and the Shia to lead the future of this consortium of gas related to Lebanon or the state. So with all this complication, internal and regional complication, I think that Lebanon is still have the power to participate. And what happened in Beirut, we have Tripoli port, but of course, after a few days, we cannot say days, but at least 2 weeks, now we can see that our port is still alive and continue shipping and the transportation. But our problem is a political problem and also related to the infrastructure. This is why Haifa port, with the agreement with the Chinese, still more powerful related to the new technology related to the intelligence technology for the transportation. And we have to look about now the relation between Emirates, who control maybe most of the port in the world, Dubai port. So Dubai port and Haifa port now with this new agreement, the peace process related to the regional peace process. And this project was made before a few years, not now, but now launched after the explosion of Beirut port, 4 of August. I can say that, yes, there is a competition, but this competition, we cannot say it's between Beirut port or the role of Lebanon and Haifa port, the role of Israel in the region. We have to look about the future of Suez Canal, because with this new tracks of communication, I think there is no need for the shipment to pass through the Red Sea. And I think the influence can influence Egypt not Lebanon, and maybe also Haifa Port.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Imad, if it's possible, please could you turn your video, or it's due to connection problem, turn off? It will be better because it's nice to see you. Uh, so we have a question from our participants.
Yes, thank you.
German. German, maybe you want to ask by your own, or no? Okay, in this case, I want to read this question. What do the Lebanese think of the idea of restoring the French mandate, as there was a petition for this issue following the Beirut explosion?
The French?
The French mandate, you know, the protectorate from the, I mean, returning protectorate of the French.
Yes. Related to me or to my analysis in what happened last 2 months, I can say that Macron mediation, it's not a French mediation. It's an American mediation undercover by Macron visit to Beirut, the first visit and the second visit. And what he proposed for the political settlement for the government and the political life, it was in cooperation with the Americans. So we start talk about the new settlement or a new government, but at the same time, the Americans continue to put sanctions on a political figure and economists and businessmen. So it's like double face of political settlement, if I can say, related to the future of the region. Future of the region, it means to be in the regional peace process economically and strategically with the West. This is the project. Macron, to be honest, yes, he is the president of France, but in the same time, look what happened with the Gilets jaunes in Paris. In the same time, he is coming to Lebanon to promote a new government, but on the other hand, in the same days, it was a demonstration against him in Paris. At the same time, look after, before 2 months, it was internal election in France, and if I can say, his political life was finished. So through Lebanon, he was promoting his future. And I think that through American, of course, because we have to look about the dollar, the influence of Rothschild. Before he will be a president, he was working on in Rothschild company, in Rothschild institution. So it means the U.S. influence economically and currency. So this role is a part of the peace package for the region. So he tried to convince Hezbollah to participate or to be more moderate. He tried to be the good guy, and American continue the bad guy. In this way, they was trying to arrive for a new settlement, and this new settlement, at the same time, there was continuing pressure and discussion with the political party in Lebanon. But on the other hand, David Schenker was visiting Lebanon, and David Hill was visiting Lebanon, was trying to get the answer from Lebanese side to make or to start negotiation between Lebanon and Israel related to the sea border and land border. So I can say that what happened in Beirut port as a cover to make an escalation for their project, and of course to put the way, as we see after this explosion between Emirates, Israel, and the other Arab country, and maybe to get Lebanon inside this way. But I think that we are so close And also I want to give you an information that Macron visit to Beirut was a part of backdoor with Syria, and this backdoor with Syria is also as a part of the peace process with Israel. So we can see maybe in few months that this mediation can lead for a new settlement in Syria, especially related with Israel, and also for the Geneva process and new role of French, Russian, Turkish, Iranian. So we can see maybe Astana extended with French participation as a part of representative of Europe and America.
Thank you so much, Dr. Imad. I think we can provide an answer. So the second question from Vitali, our participants. Today, Lebanon is de facto the hostage of Iran. Do you see it will be ended? And if yes, how?
It's a hostage of Iran and, sorry?
And do you see it will be ended? And if yes, how?
Look, related to as a hostage, no, we cannot say hostage. We have to look to the American agreement. Who keep the Iranian extend their role in the region? It was American policy, because when American enter in Baghdad or enter in Afghanistan, it was a kind of agreement with Iranian. And with the American in the region, Iranian extend their influence in the region. But if we return before in 1980, 1982, when it was the war between Saddam Hussein and between Iraq and Iran, Iran sent a mission and they start to promote the Islamic revolution in Lebanon for the Shia. So, and also it was related to the American policy, because American policy, and maybe if I say it, maybe we have to say the reality. Who extend the Islamist in Afghanistan and in this region, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan? It wasn't the US to put a wall against the Soviet and the communists at that time. The same, they was promoting public Iran, and they extended. So the extension of Iran in the region, it's a kind of complication. It's a kind of a policy to make us in the region, and after all, to keep the influence of the US in the region. Because in the same time, Iran have, in the history, the Farsi was in the region, they have their influence related to religious things, and in the same time, some economic influence. So if we return to the Shah period, in the Shah period, they have their influence in the region, but because they was under the US policy, it wasn't problem. But now, because they make some, like, to make the positive negative for the American, maybe we can talk about this role. But I'm sure that Lebanon, there is Iranian influence in Lebanon, sure. There is influence on political life, but we cannot say we are hostage, because also Iranian benefits from Lebanon as a hub, as a communication with European, with American. And so if we are a hostage, we cannot be, or we cannot have this role. For that, there is a level for influence of Iranian in Lebanon, like the same in Syria. There is influence of Iranian in Syria, but Syria still have their own decision, the government. And you can see now also the misunderstand with Russian policy in Syria, between Russian government, between Russian policy and the Syrian government, and also with the Iranians. So we have to look not with the media propaganda or with the media used the influence to get political issues. We have to look for in the reality of this crisis and of the influence and the profit of every country, and of course to the balance made by the big power inside Lebanon or inside all the region.
Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, if you have a question, please ask. You can turn on your microphones if you want. Free to do it. So if not, well, maybe they are so shy or something like that, you can use chat and write it. I will read it out. Dr. Imad, I have a question about the reaction of Lebanese people to possibility of normalization of maybe deal of normalization with Israel. How they will affect? I mean, about their reaction, if they accept it or they will decline. What do you think about it? As a Lebanese person, not a specialist,
Yes.
Lebanese.
Yes. As I tell you, maybe half of the Lebanese, to be honest, maybe they want to finish from this influence of instability of the economic situation, sanctions, embargo, problems, currency, banking problem, and as you know, Lebanese who live abroad and maybe 65 to 75% of Lebanese, they have double passport.
Yeah.
So they live everywhere. They visit Europe, America, Australia, Canada. In this way, I think there is no problem. But if we return also to what Israel is doing related, they destroy Lebanon from the 17, if I can say.
Yes,
It
from the
was
start of the Civil War.
78, 82, and 2006. So with this, all of this aggression, and as everyone knows that every day the Israeli airplane is behind Lebanon and also in the sea. So with this policy, aggression policy, I think that a lot of Lebanese don't believe that Israel wants a peace. This is one. Two, we have to be honest. We must be honest that if we make the peace, it will be a real competition and maybe problem between Lebanese businessmen in the world and in Lebanon, as a role of Lebanon in the business in the region, banking system, university, hospital, all this infrastructure. Lebanese are professional and they have a lot of skills. So, and all, we cannot say all, but most than 85% of Lebanese speak three languages: English, French, and Arabic. And now we have a lot of Lebanese. I'm talking about thousands of Lebanese who talk Russian also. So it will be positive for Lebanon, but also it will be negative maybe for the Israeli businessman as a real competition. We are not as other Arab country. We are living in Lebanon and everywhere in the world, and we are active inside the political life in all this 5 continents and culturally and everywhere. So for this reason, I think that Israel cannot benefit from a peace with Lebanon. But if you look to the mentality of Lebanese, we don't hate anyone. We don't have any problem with the Jews. We have Lebanese Jews everywhere. They were Lebanese, they are living now abroad, and they still, some Jews living in Lebanon without problem. We have to be honest. The problem is Israel. It's not Jews. So the relation between Christian, Muslim, and Jews in Lebanon, I think it will be a model for the world if we are looking for a dialogue between culture and religious. If no, I think there is no need to make peace. because peace, it means implication, it means reality. And of course, we have other problem with Israel related to the Palestinian issues, related to our land, related to the sea, our resources. So I think it's complicated, but the behavior of Lebanese is not extremist. We are not extremists. We are open-minded, and we live and we work for peace. There is no problem for us.
This is why I like you so much. I fall in love with Lebanon and Lebanese people. And, I also want to mention that if, for example, Beirut accepts the idea of normalization, it means that maybe destruction of Arab peace initiative, because it's, as I understand, it's signed in 2002 in Beirut. I mean, about
Yes, it was Arab, but the problem was in Israel.
yeah. So wish you good luck with the situation, because it's really so tricky. But we have another question from, I think it will be last one because we have already 1 hour. Good evening, my name is Emilia and I'm an expert on the Middle East. What are the prospects of economic development in Lebanon? One of the hardest questions, I mean, about the prospects for economic development in Lebanon. What do you think about it?
Sorry, Murad, the last question, the prospect?
The prospect of economic development in Lebanon.
Look, with all this crisis, believe me, I'm talking reality. You can see construction continue, development continue, business continue. All the Lebanese company, they have abroad sister company. They still bringing money to inside Lebanon, fresh dollar. So with all this embargo, they cannot stop the development of the Lebanese community and Lebanese businessmen. I'm sure. This is why I'm optimist. We are in the US, we are in Canada, in Australia, in Africa. We are the most powerful businessmen in all this. To be honest, I'm not just as a Lebanese, I'm talking this, it's reality. Yes, there is sanction, there is a lot of pressure from the US against us, but because we have some potential, they have to put some sanction to keep us under their control. This is the problem. But I'm sure that after, as I tell you, believe me, and this video will be after 6 months, and you can see it. After 6 months, this problem will finish, and you can see Lebanon return as a tourism place, as also as a place for business, as also a banking system. Because with this crisis, you know that we have as a 5 million population and 10,400 kilometers square, we have inside the banks more than $145 billion still in bank. So, and till now, with all this crisis, as I tell you, the government still paying salary, companies still alive. So there is no problem. The problem is the competition, and that the US want to keep us under their umbrella.
ما في مشكلة يعني. Okay, thank you so much. I think it will be, it was last question. First of all, let me thank to you, Dr. Imad Rizk. It's a great honor. And on behalf of Professor Vishnyakova and School of International Regional Studies of the Faculty of World Economy and International Affairs, I want to thank you to be with us. Because we started this project, Contemporary Area Studies, with you. You was our first experts, you were our first expert, and it was really so great. We talked before about different situation in Lebanon. Of course, now the situation is a little bit changed to the bad side, but I hope that everything will be okay, inshallah, as Arab world said. And I hope that we can visit Lebanon in maybe after January, in February, and everything will be okay. And even in Russia, the situation with pandemic will be end soon. and we'll be happy to see you in Moscow in our university, because you are not only a good friend of us, but you're also a brilliant expert, and really it's a great honor to listen you to know about your opinion, because it's really so interesting. Dear colleagues, for you also, thank you to be with us. I hope that you like it, and just join us next week on the 30th of October. We will hold a discussion with our one of our professors, Dr. Baklanov. He's the ex-ambassador of the Russian Federation in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He will talk about, if you know, on the 3rd of September, it will be 5 years from Russian participation in Syrian campaign. And Dr. Imad, if you want also, you can join us. It will be a great pleasure for us. Maybe you will exchange your opinions. So I think it's time to sum up and maybe to close our meeting, because it's already 1 hour. One more time, thank you so much. If you want to add something, please, the floor is yours. If not, wish you good evening and wish you the best to the Lebanon and to the Lebanese people. Welcome. So bye-bye. I will send you a link to our video record, and take care. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.